What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we don't have a specific intro in because we're not working on any of our projects, and if you're wondering if I'm sunburned, yes, I am sunburned. I decided to stupidly climb a mountain this weekend, so great views, terrible hike. Anyway, we are not working on any of our projects today. We are actually doing something that I do to keep a little bit of money coming in. I do a bunch of random stuff on the side outside of the YouTube channel, and today we're working on a friend's car because there's a pretty common problem here that we're gonna go fix. So the car we're working on is a 2010 Subaru Forester. This is the non-turbo, non-XT version, I believe. And let's pop the hood and I'll show you what we're dealing with here. So we're in the engine bay here of our 2010 Forester. This is the non-turbo version of the Forester. The turbo version is like the Forester XT. I think this is the premium or something like that. So the heart of this thing is your standard Subaru 2.5 liter H4. So it's an open deck, 4-cylinder H pattern design. So similar to those of you who know Porsches, they're horizontal sixes. Just chop a couple cylinders off and you basically have this here. These engines for many years, and for a couple different reasons, but mainly due to honestly just bad design and a little bit of cost savings as far as I can tell, they have problems with head gaskets leaking. So head gaskets, heads on the Subaru are actually on the side of the engine. That's why the H pattern exists. So the gasket here between the head and the main engine block, which is right out in here, those will leak. And I think this one actually has a leak on the passenger side. So what we're gonna do with this car over the next episode or two, probably. This is not gonna go into a series, possibly. Who knows? We'll see what it looks like when I edit it up. Is we're actually gonna go in and pull this engine, go set it on our engine stand, disassemble it, take the heads. We'll go send the heads off to go get decked and make sure they're flat. And then we'll do a bunch of repairs and talk about the things you want to consider replacing when you're inside this. This is not going to be a full DIY because there's some really good ones out there. And also, I don't necessarily have the time to go do that. So I'm trying to get this car in and out because this is the person who owns this car is their only car. And I want to get them their car back in working order relatively soon. So, given that we basically just completed our RX8 engine swap, I figured why not just go completely different in another really weird engine design, and let's go try it again. So come along with us. We'll be time-lapsing a lot of this stuff. If there's something really interesting to show, I will stop and show it. Otherwise, this will be a lot of time-lapse here, getting this thing in and out. So let's get to it. Still dirty, but not as dirty as the RX8. Weird. Anyway, it's getting late. I have to be up early tomorrow, so I'm gonna call it tonight. We've got most of the ancillaries off the engine, so a bunch of the intake, plastic parts, that's your exhaust crossover manifold, alternator, as well as things like the power steering pump, which is over here, and the air conditioning, the AC compressor over here, and a bunch of the fuel lines and hoses and coolant hoses and stuff like that. So pretty much, short of a couple things like the throttle back there, we're pretty much ready to go for pulling the big stuff. That is transmission to bell housing. Actually, there's 2 bell housings, I think, in this set, but transmission to engine bolts. Then we have torque converter bolts, which is kind of right in here. We have to pull the throttle to get to them. And then engine mounts, and we're pulling her on up. Now, I do have enough time to kind of do some of that tonight, but in my opinion, it's irresponsible to leave an engine hanging on, like, essentially a couple bolts or some mounts overnight in an engine bay anyway. If it's hanging on a stand somewhere, that's a little bit different. But I think it's irresponsible to leave it hanging around a bunch of stuff you don't want it to mess up in case something goes horrifically wrong. So we'll start that, finish up all of our minuscule stuff, and then hook up our rigging stuff to here and there, and get this thing lifted up and out of the way and over here so we can work on it properly. Yeah, so that's it for tonight. Things actually went pretty smooth. It's nice when you're working on something that isn't super rusted out, because then you can actually do the work relatively quickly. I mean, it's taking me a little bit of time, but that's mostly because it's my first time doing this engine pull. So all in all, not a bad day so far. And we'll catch up with you guys tomorrow morning. All right, we are back and working on this thing. The gas smell's gone. I don't know if that's good or not. All right, so where we left it off last night, we got a throttle body to remove so we can get into this. There's a little plastic thing right under here. That's where you can get to the flywheel bolts. And then we have all of the rest of the bolts for the bell housing to transmission to engine connection. Pop those and we're pretty much good to go. So yeah, we're gonna get ourselves set up here. Well, would you look what we got here? So I step on some plastic parts, don't mind that. We have a 2.5 liter boxer on an engine stand. So that was fun. That grounding strap was not obvious before it started hanging up the engine. That's what I stopped mid-lift when it looked like the driver's side was hanging up on something and I was messing around with it. It was actually that grounding strap, which I didn't see until I was trying to lift the thing out. Back here, not too bad. Everything came out just fine, and the torque converter and everything else is in good condition and is seated just fine. It was kind of fun trying to get the engine off this thing. I think the angles and dangles were off a little bit, so I had to fiddle around with that a bunch. And then getting it onto the stand was hilarious because these like foldable stands that I have, their legs are they're not built to like interface with each other very well. So way to go, Harbor Freight. So that was a little sketchy, but we made it work and the engine's on there just fine, so not to worry about that. So I think that's going to be about the end of this video here. Next video, we're going to be pulling this thing apart, and maybe we'll do that in DIY fashion, or we'll do it as kind of like a mechanic's tips and tricks, because there's a few things when we go pull this apart and put it back together that I see some people do it on the internet, and it's not wrong per se, but it's definitely not optimal. And there's definitely a couple things that you need to pay attention to when you're doing things like pulling O-rings and things like that. Just from a sealing perspective, because we're gonna end up pulling some O-rings just for the sake of completeness when we're doing this work. So that'll be the next episode. But yeah, everything's out and in decent condition so far. I mean, we probably won't find out if we broke anything unintended until we put it all back together. It's all bolted in, and then it's like going to be the very worst thing to get to. But luckily, this engine's actually not too bad to work on. It's much easier to get to everything than in like the RX8, where everything's tucked into this tiny engine bay underneath the firewall. So it's nice working on a open and available engine for once. So thanks for watching, everybody. My name's Andrew. This is another Make It and Break It YouTube channel video. This one doesn't follow any of our normal projects, but if you like the video, definitely hit like down below. If there's some tips, tricks, useful information that I missed or didn't share during this thing, then definitely throw those in the comments down below. If you like what we're doing with their channel, we do stuff like this sometimes when we're doing some work for other people just to keep money coming in. We also have our Yamaha R6 to adventure bike project going on. We got an RX8 race car build going on. We got a lot of cool stuff going on the channel, some 3D printing stuff coming up. So if that sounds cool, then definitely hit subscribe, ding that bell icon so that you get notified when we put out a new video. Yeah, that's it. We'll catch y'all later.